Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something really essential, I think. Very personal. We're diving into how to talk about yourself. You know, not just getting the facts right, but doing it confidently, effectively in English.
That's exactly it. So often we look outwards, politics, tech, history, but today it's all about you, the listener. Being able to share your own story, well, it's fundamental.
Yeah, you need it everywhere. Job interviews, obviously, but just meeting people, making friends, even small talk, really.
Every single time, pretty much.
Yeah.
And look, the goal here isn't just stringing together basic sentences. We want to help you build a complete personal narrative, something compelling.
Right. It can feel a bit overwhelming, maybe, especially trying to get deeper ideas across in another language. But the good news is there's a roadmap.
There absolutely is. We're going to lay out the building blocks, the words, the structures, but also the strategy behind it.
So moving beyond just facts into something more three-dimensional.
Exactly. And it's not just vocabulary. It's about understanding why certain questions get asked, how to handle cultural bits and pieces, and how to have answers ready for different situations.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin? I guess the absolute first step, the basics, names.
Has to be names, the starting point for any interaction.
Right. So meeting someone new, you want to be clear, polite. What's the safest bet, the one that works anywhere?
Okay, the universal one, formal, safe, always appropriate. My name is a name. Simple as that.
My name is. Can't go wrong with that. Polite, clear, boardroom, coffee shop, anywhere.
Exactly. Sets a nice, respectful tone, but, day to day, probably hear something else more often.
Yeah, the more casual version, using I am, or usually.
I am the contraction. I'm Sarah. I'm David. It just sounds a bit more relaxed, more natural in most everyday chats.
So my name is formal. I'm is more friendly, casual. Neither is wrong, just different vibes.
Precisely. The really key thing, though, whichever one you use, is saying your name clearly. Enunciate.
Good point. And if you're the one asking, you need the standard question.
Still the classic, what is your name? But how you say it matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, that upward inflection at the end makes it sound like a friendly question, not like you're demanding their ID.
Right. That little lift in your voice is crucial. Now, something that often causes confusion, especially on paper, like forms.
Ah, yes. First name versus last name. Vital distinction.
Absolutely vital. That's your personal name, right? What your friends call you. David, Maria, Kenji.
And if a form asks for first name, you put that name, not your family name.
Correct. And the last name, also called surname, or family name, that's the one shared in the family. Jones, Garcia, Tanaka.
And in most English-speaking introductions, day-to-day, we usually just lead with the first name, don't we?
Overwhelmingly, yes. At a party, meeting someone, hi, I'm Michael, is perfectly normal. You usually don't offer the last name unless asked or in a more formal setting.
Okay, so let's put it all together. You mentioned this is like a little social dance. 4 steps.
It really is. A sequence. You've got the greeting, hi. Hello. Then you give your name. I'm Sarah. Then you ask back, what's your name?
And they answer, I'm Ben. And then the crucial bit, the phrase that seals the deal.
The social lubricant, as I call it. It's nice to meet you. You have to say it.
Yeah, it feels really unfinished if you don't. Even if you're just being polite, it signals goodwill.
It absolutely does. And the ritual isn't complete until the other person responds, usually with,
it's nice to meet you too. That little word too is key. Shows you heard them and you feel the same.
Exactly. Greeting, naming, asking, answering. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Master that sequence. And you've nailed the first essential part of meeting someone. Confidence starts there. Hashtag tag 1.2. Talking about where you are from.
Okay. Names exchanged. Feels good. What's almost always the next question?
9 times out of 10, where are you from? It's just such a natural, friendly way to show interest. Curiosity.
And the answer structure is pretty straightforward, thankfully.
Beautifully predictable. The most basic is simply, I am from country, or I am from city. So I'm from Brazil, or I am from London. Clear, direct.
And if you want to give both city and country, is there an order?
Yeah, the convention is usually city first, then country, more specific to broader. I am from Paris, France, or I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. Gives a nice bit of detail.
Makes sense. What about using nationality, like I am French instead of I am from France?
You absolutely can. I am Canadian, I am Japanese. It's grammatically perfect. Although I'd say in initial casual conversation, I'm from is maybe slightly more common than I am nationality. but both work fine.
Okay. Now, here's a common situation for many listeners, I imagine, and they're from one place, but they live somewhere else now. How do you explain that clearly?
Yes. This is where one little word is your best friend.
But.
What?
Simple but effective.
Exactly. You state your origin, then use but to contrast it with your current location. I am from Mexico, but I live in Chicago now.
That's crystal clear. Origin first, then current residence.
You can add a bit more detail too. I'm originally from Vietnam, but I've been living in Sydney for about 3 years. Using originally is a nice touch there.
Yeah, originally from sounds quite natural. It immediately paints that picture, past versus present. What if you're from a really small place someone might not have heard of?
That's a great point. Smart conversational strategy there is to give a nearby, larger landmark.
Right. Like instead of just, I'm from Poggibonsi, you might say.
You say, I'm from Poggibonsi. It's a small town in Tuscany near Florence. You anticipate they won't know the town, so you give them Florence as a reference point. Very helpful.
Okay, so we've got name, we've got origin, maybe current location. We've built that initial foundation.
Exactly. Solid start. You've handled the first crucial information exchange smoothly.
All right, moving on. After name and origin, what's often the next big question, especially maybe in places like the US or the UK?
The big one. What do you do? Or sometimes phrased as, what do you do for a living?
Okay, pause here. This is important culturally. We need to be super clear. This question is not asking what you're doing right now, like drinking tea or sitting here.
Absolute critical distinction.
Yeah.
It means, what is your job?
Yeah.
Or what is your main occupation or activity? Like student, worker, retiree.
Right. And we should probably address why this question comes up so quickly in some cultures, because in other places, asking about someone's job right away might feel a bit intrusive.
That's a really important nuance. In many Western cultures, particularly North America, your job is often seen as a huge part of your identity. It's a shortcut, really.
A shortcut to what?
To understanding your skills, maybe your education level, your interests, sometimes even your social standing or income, though people aren't usually consciously thinking of that last one. It's mainly about finding common ground. Oh, you're a teacher. My sister's a teacher. That kind of thing.
Okay. But what if you are from a culture where this feels too direct, or you sense the other person might be uncomfortable? How do you handle that?
Good question. You have options. You can give a broader answer, maybe using the industry structure we'll talk about in a second, like I work in technology, and then crucially, you pivot immediately.
Pivot back to them.
Exactly. I work in technology. How about you? What keeps you busy? Or change the topic slightly. I work in tech, which is interesting. Hey, did you try the appetizers here? You answer briefly, then deflect. That respects the cultural difference.
Nice. So answer vaguely and turn it around. Good stratagem. Hashtag tag 2.2, answering if you have a job.
Okay, so assuming you're comfortable answering and you have a job, there are a few standard ways to phrase it. The most common uses the verb to be.
I am a job title, or contracted. I'm a job title.
Right. And here's where a tiny grammar point is essential. The article a or an.
Yes. A before a consonant sound and before a vowel sound. Seems small, but getting it right makes you sound much more fluent.
It really does. So I'm a doctor, I'm a manager, but I'm an engineer, I'm an architect. That little sound makes a difference.
Got it. A or N. Now, what about using the verb to work? That gives you more options, doesn't it?
It does. It lets you be more specific in different ways. Option 1, focus on your role using A's.
Like, I work as a graphic designer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or I work as a research assistant. It emphasizes the function. Option 2, focus on the place using at.
I work at Google, or I work at a hospital, or I work at the university. Good if the place is well known or gives context.
Right. And option 3, which is super flexible and great for those complex job titles or for being a bit broader, focus on the field or industry using in.
Like you mentioned for deflecting, I work in finance, I work in education, I work in marketing.
Precisely. If your title is something like lead interdepartmental synergy facilitator,
Cool. Okay.
it's probably much easier and clearer just to say, I work in project management or I work in HR. It invites follow-up without confusion. Hashtag tag 2.3, answering if you are a student.
Makes sense. Now, what about listeners who are currently studying?
Very straightforward. The base answer is simply, I am a student. Or, I'm a student.
Simple enough, but you can add more detail, right? Make it more informative.
Definitely. You should almost always add what you're studying, using the verb study. I'm studying engineering. I'm studying history.
Then maybe where you're studying.
Yeah, often that's helpful too, using at. So putting it all together. I'm a student. I'm studying marketing at Northwestern University. Or I'm a graduate student studying physics at MIT. Gives a much fuller picture.
Right. Much better than just, I'm a student. Again, more hooks for conversation. Hashtag tag 2.4, handling tricky situations. Polite phrasing.
Okay, this part's really important. What do you say when your situation isn't just, I have a job or I'm a student? We need polite, positive ways to talk about being, say, unemployed or retired or a caregiver.
Right. Let's start with being between jobs. What's the best way to phrase that? Definitely not just I'm unemployed, right? Sounds a bit negative.
Yeah, it sounds passive. The recommended phrase, the positive, proactive one is, I am between jobs right now.
Between jobs. I like that. It implies you're in a transition, moving towards something.
Exactly. And ideally, you should pair it with what you're looking for. Don't just leave it hanging there.
So something like, I'm between jobs right now, but I'm actively looking for opportunities in software development.
Perfect. It shows you're proactive, you have a direction. It turns a potentially awkward situation into a statement of intent.
Okay. What about someone who's maybe taken time off deliberately, like for family or a personal project?
You frame it with purpose. I'm currently taking some time to focus on my family, or I'm taking a career break to work on a writing project. The key is framing it as an active choice, if it was one.
Got it. And for parents who've chosen to focus on raising children, is there a standard phrase?
Yes, and it's clear and well understood. I am a stay-at-home mom, or I'm a stay-at-home dad. Perfectly respectable and descriptive.
Good. And finally, retirement.
Simple start. I'm retired now, or I'm retired. But that can sometimes stop the conversation cold.
Yeah, like, okay, next topic.
Right. So a great strategy is to add a little bridge to your past career. I'm retired now. I used to be an accountant for about 35 years. Or I'm retired now, but I spent my career as a nurse.
That gives the listener something to connect with, doesn't it? Your past experience, skills.
Exactly. It provides context and keeps the door open for more conversation. The big takeaway here is, whatever your situation, have a prepared, positive, confident way to state it. No apologies needed.
Okay, we've covered name, origin, what you do, the sort of external facts. Now, the conversation often naturally shifts a bit closer, doesn't it, towards people, family.
Yeah, it's a very common and usually comfortable next step. Family is pretty universal, so it's relatable territory. We usually start with the immediate family. Hashtag tag 3.1, immediate family vocabulary.
Right, so the basic words. We've got parents, which covers mother and father, or the informal mom and dad, and then the useful umbrella term.
Siblings, which just means your brothers and sisters collectively. It's a great word.
So typical questions might be,
do you have any family living nearby? That's common if you've mentioned you live away from your origin. Or more directly, do you have any brothers or sisters? Or simply, do you have any siblings?
And when answering about siblings, just the number isn't always the full picture, is it?
No, adding a little detail helps. Instead of just, I have 2 brothers, maybe specify.
I have 2 older brothers, or I have 1 younger sister and 1 older brother. That older or younger paints a clearer picture of the family dynamic.
Exactly. And for those who don't have siblings, there's a perfect phrase for that.
I'm an only child. Simple, clear, instantly understood.
Yep. And interestingly, talking about siblings is often where you first get to practice asking, what do they do about someone else? If you say, I have an older sister, the next natural question is often,
oh, really? What does she do? Yeah, good point. You pivot the focus. Hashtag tag 3.2, relationship status and children. More personal topics.
Okay, moving into slightly more personal territory now. Relationship status and kids.
And here we need a little caution sign, perhaps. These aren't usually first 5-minute questions with a total stranger, are they?
Generally, no. It's usually best to wait until you've built a little rapport, feel a bit more comfortable with the person. There's a degree of social sensitivity needed here.
Right. So, assuming the moment feels right, what's the polite way to ask about relationship status?
The standard, gentle question is usually, are you married?
Okay. And the vocabulary for answering?
Well, if you're married, a man has a wife, a woman has a husband. Simple enough.
But what if you're in a serious relationship but not married? The language there has gotten more flexible.
It really has. You can say, I have a partner. That's very common now. Neutral, works for any gender combination. Or you can use the more traditional, I have a boyfriend or I have a girlfriend.
And if you're not in a relationship?
The straightforward answer is, I'm single.
Clear enough. Okay, last bit in this section. Children. How do people usually ask?
Again, gently. Do you have any children? Or maybe, do you have any kids? Kids is the very common informal term.
And the vocabulary.
Formal terms are son for a male child, daughter for a female child. But again, conversationally, people often just say kids. Yeah, I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Well,
A son and a daughter.
and if you don't have children.
A simple, no, I don't have any children is fine. Or no kids for me yet, maybe.
Right. This whole area of family, relationships, kids, it provides potential common ground, right? Shared experiences, especially for parents.
Huge common ground, so where connections can deepen. But again, approach with a bit of sensitivity.
All right, we've done the who, where, what, the kind of factual stuff you might put on a form. But let's be honest, that's not really who you are, is it? Now we get to the fun part.
Exactly, the personality part. What makes you tick? We're talking about hobbies, interests, passions, what you do in your free time.
Free time when you're not working or studying, just relaxing, enjoying yourself.
Right, and the questions here are usually open invitations. What do you do for fun? Or what do you like to do in your free time?
They're basically saying, tell me something interesting about yourself. Hashtag, tag 4.1. Talking about hobbies and free time.
The sentence structures are pretty easy. I like to verb,
Yeah.
or I enjoy verbing. So I like to read. I enjoy swimming.
Okay, easy structure. But here's the trap, isn't it? Being too general. I like movies. Well, okay, who doesn't? It doesn't tell me much.
Precisely. This brings us to what I call the specificity rule. You have to be specific. General answers kill conversations. Specific answers create openings.
Right, so instead of I like sports,
Say, I like playing tennis on weekends, or I really enjoy watching Formula One racing. See the difference.
instantly. If you say tennis, I can ask, oh, do you play often? Or are you any good? If you say F1, I can ask about your favorite driver or team. You've given me something to work with.
Exactly. It applies to everything. Don't just say, I like music. Say, I really enjoy listening to live indie rock. Or, I like playing the piano, mostly classical stuff.
Or I like reading becomes I love reading historical fiction. Or I'm really into reading biographies. Specific genres, specific artists, specific activities.
Yes. Painting, hiking, cooking, coding, volunteering, playing board games. Be specific, even if it's not a traditional hobby.
Like if you just enjoy relaxing with people.
Even then, instead of, I like hanging out with friends, my friends and I really enjoy trying out new cafes together on Sundays. Or I like hosting dinner parties for my friends. Specificity makes it vivid and relatable.
Okay, specificity is key for hobbies. Now, you mentioned something about going even deeper, beyond just what you like, to explaining why. This is where real connection happens.
This is, I think, one of the most valuable skills in conversation. Moving from stating a preference, your taste, to explaining the reason behind it. That's where your personality truly shines through.
And there's one crucial word that helps bridge that gap.
The magic word, because. Simple, powerful, connects the what to the why.
Okay, give me an example. Let's take something simple like food. I like spicy food. That's okay, but adding because.
All right. Compare, I like spicy food to, I really love spicy food because I find the heat exciting and it makes all the other flavors pop.
Ah, okay. The because tells me why. It reveals something about what you value, excitement, intensity of flavor.
Exactly. Or take music, I don't like opera, versus I don't really enjoy opera because I find it hard to follow the story and the style feels a bit too dramatic for my taste.
That tells me you prefer clarity, maybe something less overtly emotional. It's much more informative than just the dislike.
It really is. You're sharing a piece of your inner world, your preferences, your values. Let's try another one. I love autumn.
Okay, but
Autumn.
I love autumn because the crisp air feels refreshing after the summer heat, and I find the changing colors of the leaves incredibly beautiful and calming.
Perfect. You've just revealed you value change, beauty, calmness, and physical sensation. See how much richer that is.
Definitely. So the advice for listeners is,
Practice this. Take a few things you like and dislike, seasons, foods, movie genres, types of books, whatever. And for each one, write or say a sentence. I don't like X because Y. Get comfortable explaining the why. It transforms how you connect with people.
okay, we're moving into the really deep waters now. Past experiences, describing your own personality, thinking about the future, your core values. This is where you build that full three-dimensional picture.
Exactly. This is moving beyond surface level chat into sharing who you really are. Hashtag 5.1. Sharing past experiences. Stories.
Right, let's start with the past. Telling little stories. This requires a bit of grammar comfort, doesn't it?
It does. You need to be reasonably comfortable with the simple past tense. Knowing those common irregular verbs, go becomes went, see becomes saw, eat becomes ate. It's really crucial for storytelling.
Okay, So assuming the grammar's okay, what are good topics for sharing past experiences? Travel seems like a really common and safe one.
Travel is fantastic. Everyone loves hearing travel stories or sharing their own. A common prompt is, have you traveled anywhere interesting recently? Or, what's your favorite place you've visited?
And when you answer, you need a structure, right? Not just rambling.
Keep it concise and clear. Start with a time marker, last year, or a few years ago. State where you went. I went to Japan. Then add just a couple of key details. Maybe who you went with, one memorable thing you saw or did, and maybe how it felt.
And use good adjectives. Don't just say, the food was good.
Exactly. Use evocative words. The food was absolutely delicious. The scenery was breathtaking. The people were incredibly welcoming. Adjectives bring the story to life.
But keep it short, right? We're not writing a novel here.
Definitely. In conversation, a good mini story is maybe 30 seconds to a minute. A snapshot, not the whole photo album.
Good analogy. What about other past topics? Childhood, education.
Those can be great too, maybe in slightly closer relationships. A simple childhood memory, starting with, I remember one time when I was a kid, can reveal a lot. Were you adventurous? Shy? Creative?
Or talking about your education or first job. I studied literature at university. Or my first job was working in a bookstore. That tells someone about your interests and early experiences. Again, keep it brief.
Brevity and a clear point are key for these mini stories. Hashtag tag tags 5 point, describing your personality.
Okay, this feels like a big one. How do you describe your own personality in English without sounding, arrogant or just listing words?
That's tricky. First, you need some good vocabulary. Think about how you interact with others. Are you generally outgoing or sociable, or more quiet, shy, or reserved?
Okay, interaction style. What else?
How you approach tasks or life. Are you organized and methodical, or maybe more spontaneous and flexible? Are you analytical, creative, optimistic, practical, caring, curious? Pick maybe 2 or 3 words that genuinely feel like you.
Right. But just saying I'm creative isn't very convincing, is it? This leads to that critical technique you mentioned earlier.
The single most important technique for talking about personality. Show, don't just tell.
Explain that. What's the difference?
Telling is just stating the trait. I am hardworking. Okay, says who? Showing is giving a concrete example or a mini story that demonstrates the trait in action. The listener draws their own conclusion.
So instead of I'm hardworking, you'd say
something like, I guess I'm quite hardworking. For example, when we had that major project deadline last month, I stayed late 3 nights in a row to make sure all the details were perfect before the launch.
Ah, okay. The action staying late, focusing on details, shows the hard work. It's proof.
Exactly. Let's try another one. Don't just say I'm organized.
Show it. I'm a pretty organized person. For instance, I always plan out my entire week's schedule, including meals and workouts, every Sunday night. It helps me feel in control.
Perfect. The specific routine planning the week on Sunday is the evidence. Or, I'm quite adaptable. When my flight got canceled last minute on my trip, I didn't panic. I just quickly found a train route and ended up having an unexpected adventure.
The story proves adaptability. So the formula is state the trait, then immediately follow with for example, or for instance, or a short story that proves it.
That's the magic formula. It makes your self-description believable, memorable, and much more impactful. Hashtag tag 5.3, talking about future plans and goals.
We've looked back, we've looked inward. Now looking ahead, talking about future plans and goals. Why is this important in getting to know someone?
It shows ambition, direction, what you're striving for.
Yeah.
It reveals that you're a forward-thinking person. It adds another dimension beyond just the present.
And what kind of language do we use? Positive, forward-looking phrases, I assume.
Yes. Things like, I hope to. My goal is to. I'm planning to. Or the slightly softer, I would like to, often contracted to, I'd like to.
Okay. And what kinds of goals do people usually talk about? Probably professional and personal?
Those are the main categories. Professional goals for students might be, my main goal right now is just to finish my degree and find a good job. For workers, it could be getting a promotion, learning a new skill.
Like, I'd like to improve my presentation skills this year, or my goal is to eventually start my own business.
Exactly. Those show professional drive. Then there are personal goals.
Travel often comes up here, right? One day I'd love to travel across Southeast Asia.
Big one. Or learning new skills. I hope to learn how to play the guitar. My goal is to run a half marathon next year. Or maybe family goals, like buying a house or spending more time with relatives.
Sharing these goals, it gives a sense of purpose, doesn't it? What you're working towards.
It really does. It completes the picture where you've been, who you are now, and where you're headed. Tag 5.4, sharing your values, the core of who you are.
Okay, we've reached the absolute core, the deepest layer, values. What exactly do we mean by values here?
Values are your fundamental beliefs, the principles that guide your decisions and your actions. They're the why behind everything else. Honesty, family, creativity, community, learning, kindness. These kinds of core concepts.
This sounds pretty intense for casual conversation.
It is. This is definitely the most advanced and personal topic. Sharing your core values requires vulnerability, trust. It's usually reserved for conversations with people you know quite well. Close friends, partners, not usually first meeting material.
Right. But understanding your own values helps explain the other things, like goals, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Your goals are often a direct reflection of your values. If your goal is to volunteer more, you probably value community or compassion. If your goal is to get a PhD, you likely value learning or knowledge. The goal is the action. The value is the underlying principle.
So even if you don't explicitly state, I value X, sharing your goals can implicitly share your values.
That's often how it works in conversation. But if you do want to talk about values directly in that closer context, how do you make it meaningful? We go back to our golden rule.
Show, don't just tell, even for something abstract like a value.
Especially for abstract values. Stating I value honesty is okay. Showing it is powerful.
How would you show honesty?
Honesty is really important to me. For example, when I realized I'd been accidentally undercharged at the store last week, I went back in to point it out and pay the correct amount. The action, even a small one, makes the value concrete.
Or for, I value family.
Family is my top priority. That's why I make sure to call my parents every Sunday, no matter how busy I am, and we have a big family dinner together once a month. Again, the specific, consistent action demonstrates the value.
Makes sense. It connects the abstract idea to real-life behavior.
It's the most profound way to share who you truly are when the time and relationship are right.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground, from basic names to deep values. Now, the big challenge for listeners, how do you put all these pieces together? How do you build your own personal story to share?
Right. You need a way to synthesize this. And importantly, you need different versions depending on the situation. You don't give your life story to everyone you meet.
Good point. So let's talk about two models. First, the short version, the quick intro.
We call this the elevator pitch sometimes. It's for those brief encounters, networking events, meeting a lot of people quickly, maybe introducing yourself in a class or a meeting. It needs to be concise, clear, and ideally memorable.
What are the absolute essential parts for this short version?
3 things. 1, your name and origin current location. 2, what you do, job or student status. 3, one interesting or specific hobby or passion. That last one is key. It's the hook.
The hook.
The thing that makes you stand out slightly and gives the other person an easy follow-up question.
Okay, can you give an example of a good short elevator pitch?
Sure. Something like, hi, I'm Maria. I'm originally from Italy, but I live in London now where I work in marketing. Outside of work, I'm really passionate about urban gardening. I'm trying to grow vegetables on my tiny balcony.
Okay, I like that. Name, origin location, Italy, London, job, marketing, and a specific, slightly quirky hobby, urban gardening. It's short, informative, and that gardening bit is memorable.
Exactly. Takes maybe 15, 20 seconds. Gives enough info, provides a hook, perfect for quick intros.
All right, now for model 2, the longer version. The deeper story for, say, a coffee chat or getting to know someone better.
Right. This is where you build on that short foundation and weave in some of those richer layers we discussed. You're aiming for a more 3-dimensional picture.
So what gets added to the elevator pitch?
You'd include the basics, but then add maybe one short, relevant story from your past, like that travel anecdote or first job. 1 or 2 key personality traits backed up with your show. Don't just tell examples. And maybe 1 or 2 of your main future goals or aspirations.
It sounds like quite a lot, but you're weaving it together naturally in conversation, presumably.
Exactly. It wouldn't be a monologue. It would emerge over maybe 5-10 minutes of back and forth. But having these pieces ready lets you share them effectively when the moment arises.
Could you sketch out what that might sound like, woven together?
Okay, imagine expanding on Maria's story. She might start with her pitch, then later mention, yeah, marketing is challenging, but I enjoy it. I think I'm quite a determined person, for example. When I first moved to London, I applied for maybe 50 jobs before landing this one. But my real passion project is the gardening. It connects back to my childhood, actually. I remember spending summers on my grandparents' farm in Italy. That was incredible. Looking ahead, I'd love to eventually take a course in horticulture, maybe even volunteer at a community garden.
Ah, okay. So she wove in a personality trait, determined with proof, job applications, a past memory, grandparents' farm linked to her hobby, and a future goal, horticulture course. Much richer.
Exactly. It tells you not just what she does, but a bit about her resilience, her background, her passions, and her future plans. That's the three-dimensional story. Hashtag tag outro.
This has been incredibly helpful. So wrapping up, if listeners are going to take away just a few key pieces of advice for crafting and sharing their personal story, what should they be?
Okay, let's boil it down to 4 fundamental takeaways. First, master the basics. Seriously. Get your name, origin, and what you do statements smooth, clear, and confident. That's your launch pad.
Right. Foundation first. Second.
Share your interests with specificity. Don't be generic. Talk about that particular type of music, that specific sport, that kind of book. Use the like, plus because idea to explain why. That creates connection.
Be specific, explain why. Got it. Third takeaway.
Tell small stories. Those little anecdotes about travel or a past job or a childhood memory, they make you memorable. They show personality in action. Practice telling 1 or 2 concise ones.
Stories stick. Okay, and the final, maybe overarching piece of advice.
Be prepared, honestly. Think about these things in advance. What are your key personality traits? What are some examples that show them? What are your main goals? Practice saying your short pitch out loud. Practice weaving the longer story. Preparation vanquishes fear.
Preparation is the key to confidence. I like that. Master basics. Be specific, tell stories, and prepare. That's a solid action plan.
It really is. And if you can do that, you'll find your conversations become much richer and your connections much deeper.
Fantastic. Anything else to leave our listeners with? A final thought?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
maybe the ultimate point of all this, learning the words, the structures, the strategies, isn't just about communicating facts. It's about moving from just saying what you do or what you like to explaining why.
Connecting it back to those deeper motivations, those values.
Exactly. When you can start to articulate the why behind your story, linking your actions and goals back to what truly matters to you, that's when you move beyond just introduction. That's when you start building real, meaningful human connection. That's the real goal, isn't it?
That's a powerful thought to end on. It's not just about talking about yourself, but sharing who you are. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Get practicing that personal story. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we distill complex human skills into actionable knowledge, giving you the shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Hey there. So, in our last deep dive, we spent, quite a bit of time on the art of self-expression.
We did indeed.
We looked at sharing your story, your job, your passions, even your values. Basically, making sure you know how to serve up your personal narrative with some real confidence.
And look, that is a powerful skill, absolutely essential, knowing how to introduce yourself, tell people who you are. But, and this is the big but, we need to pivot right now. Because a conversation, well, it's a dialogue, isn't it? It's not a monologue.
Exactly.
If it's all about you, you're not really conversing. You're just, I don't know, giving a TED Talk they didn't ask for.
That's a perfect way to put it. So today's mission, our focus is entirely on the other half, the often underestimated, sometimes ignored, but absolutely critical skills.
Listening and asking questions. Good questions.
That's it. We're moving beyond just sharing to actually truly connecting.
And we like metaphors here, so we're using a simple one. Conversation as a game of tennis.
Right.
When you shared your name, job, hobbies last time, that was you serving the ball over the net. Clear and confident.
And the game only keeps going if the other person returns that serve. How do they return it? By showing they're actually interested, by asking a specific, relevant follow-up question.
Yeah. If they just catch the ball, look at it, say, cool, and put it in their package.
Game over.
Instantly. The points lost, the momentum just fizzles out.
And that ability, that skill of returning the ball, of shifting the focus from you to them, that's the bedrock. That's what turns a quick intro into something potentially real, a connection.
It's proof, isn't it? Proof that you're genuinely curious about them, not just like waiting politely for your turn to talk again.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, maybe for you listening, asking questions feels awkward, maybe a bit scary.
Yeah, like you're prying or something. Or maybe you'll ask a dumb question.
Right, that fear of sounding intrusive or maybe just boring. But the good news, the really fantastic news, is that curiosity, it can be learned, it can be systematized almost.
Okay.
It's a teachable skill. We're basically going to give you a kind of mental checklist, a framework, so you can return that serve confidently.
Right.
Every single time.
So last time, how to serve. today. How to return that serve like a pro with real skill, real confidence. We'll start simple, right? Basic follow-up questions. Then we'll level up open versus closed questions, getting those stories out.
And finally, the other massive piece, active listening, making people feel really heard.
Okay, let's jump in. The basic return, the first step.
The goal here is immediate. Just moving beyond the simple facts someone stated, asking for a little bit more detail right away.
And this is where the toolkit comes in. Our Trumpty WH words.
Yep, what, where, when, who, and why. They're not just, grammar. They're like conversational levers.
Cognitive bridges, you call them. I like that.
Yeah, they give the other person a clear path to share more. Makes it easier for them, less like they have to invent something out of thin air.
Okay, so let's apply this toolkit. Common small talk scenarios. First one, where someone's from, always comes up.
Always. They say, I'm from Canada, or I live in Tokyo.
Right. And the automatic, boring response is, oh, nice. That kills it.
Kills it dead.
You need the follow-up. Detail. If it's Canada, well, Canada's huge.
Exactly. So you immediately narrow it. Oh, interesting. What part of Canada are you from? Simple WH question shows it's not just one place. Asks for specifics.
And what if they name a place you've never heard of? Like, I'm from Saskatoon, and you're drawing a total blank.
Don't pretend. That's key. Just be honest and curious. Use a geographical follow-up. Saskatoon, I confess I don't know much about it. What's it like living there?
Ah, okay. So you shift from data, the name, to their experience of the place.
Precisely. You're asking about their life there. Much more engaging.
And then there's this slightly more advanced return, connecting it to yourself somehow.
Yeah, finding a Brit. If they say Japan, instead of just, oh, cool, try something like, wow, Japan, I've always wanted to visit. From your perspective, what's the absolute best time of year to go? And maybe why?
Okay, so you're acknowledging their expertise, they live there,
yeah,
and linking it directly to your own interests. Makes it more mutual.
Exactly. Deepens the engagement right away. Okay, let's move on. Second big topic, what someone does. Their job.
Right. The classic, what do you do? They say, I'm a marketing consultant, or I teach high school history.
Again, start with specifics. For the teacher, oh, interesting. What subject specifically? Or what age group do you work with? Simple returns, but essential. Keeps the ball rolling.
Gets the basic facts on the table. But you mentioned leveling up.
Yeah.
Moving beyond facts.
Yeah. This is where it gets good. Transition from asking for facts to asking about feelings, opinions, experiences.
Okay.
So instead of just facts about the teaching job, ask for reflection. A really powerful one is, what's the most rewarding part about being a teacher for you?
Huh? Or for the consultant, what's the biggest challenge you're seeing in marketing right now?
Exactly. That's gold standard stuff. Because you're instantly going past the job description, the mechanics.
And asking about what matters to them personally, their values, their struggles.
That's where the real person emerges. If the teacher says the best part is seeing a kid finally get a tough concept, boom, you know something core about them. They value growth, mentorship.
Got it. Okay, third pillar, hobbies and interests.
And this, honestly, is where so many conversations just die.
Yeah. How so?
Someone shares something they love. I really enjoy reading fantasy novels.
And the response is?
The absolute killer. Oh, cool. Followed by nothing. Silence. Crickets.
Huh. Right. Dropping the tennis ball and just staring at it.
You have to return it. Use a WH word. The easy one is, oh yeah, what kind of fantasy do you like? Classic.
But you mentioned a better way. More engaging.
Ask something that puts them in the now. What are you reading right now?
Ah, okay. Makes it specific, current. They have to think about the actual book, maybe sitting on their nightstand.
Exactly. It often leads to a better anecdote. Or if they like something active, like cycling.
Don't just say, that's nice.
No. Go for the where or the how often. Oh, cool. Where do you usually go cycling around here? Or how often do you manage to get out for a ride?
So the basic principle is consistency. Always be ready with a simple WH follow-up. Shows you heard the fact, now you want the flavor.
Perfectly put. You heard the fact, now you want the flavor. That keeps the flow going.
Okay, foundation laid, basic returns, WH words. Now section 2, leveling up the structure of our questions.
Yes, this is crucial. Understanding the difference between open and closed questions, it's honestly the key to unlocking depth.
The difference between short and shallow versus long and interesting.
Totally. Let's define the closed-ended one first. Super simple.
It's a question you can answer with yes or no.
Or maybe just one specific piece of info, a number, a place, a time.
It's like it. Do you like your job? Are you from London? Do you have siblings? We ask these all the time.
And they're not bad necessarily. Sometimes you need that quick fact.
Right.
But the problem is they put all the work back on you, the asker. They don't invite the other person to tell a story. They just stop.
Like hitting a conversational wall.
Exactly, a stop sign. So the alternative, your secret weapon, is the open-ended question.
Okay, tell me about those.
These are the questions you simply cannot answer with just yes or no. They're designed, engineered almost, to invite a longer answer, a story, an opinion, some real texture.
And they often start with
What, how, or sometimes carefully why. They require the speaker to actually think, reflect, and share more than just surface-level data.
Okay, let's practice converting. That closed question. Do you like your job?
Yeah.
Answer, yes. Conversation stalled.
Right. To open it up, use what or how instead of do you like it? Try. What aspects of your job do you find most meaningful?
Forces them to connect work to values. Okay.
Or for history, contest, how did you actually decide to get into that particular field?
Ooh, I like that one. That requires a whole narrative, doesn't it? Choices, maybe challenges.
Exactly. It's immediately more personal, more engaging. They have to tell you a bit of their journey.
Okay, but what about why? You said use it carefully. Can sound a bit pointed sometimes.
That's a really important point, yes. Especially about choices or feelings, asking why can feel like you're asking for a justification, like an interrogation.
Why did you move here? Sounds a bit like defend your decision.
Right. It can put people on the defensive. So the trick is often to use how as a softer substitute for why. It focuses on the process, the story, not the justification.
Gotcha. So instead of why did you move, maybe, how did you find the process of moving here? Or what was that transition like for you?
Perfect. You're asking for the narrative of the experience, which naturally includes the reasons, but without that feeling of being cross-examined.
Makes sense. Okay, let's try travel. Closed question after a trip. Did you have a good trip?
Yeah.
Always.
Always. Useless question, conversationally.
So the open conversion, make it specific.
Yep. Try. What was the single most memorable moment or experience from the whole trip?
Okay, memorable moment. Forces them to pick an anecdote, something with emotional weight, not just, we saw the Colosseum.
Exactly. Or, for deeper reflection, what was the most surprising thing you learned about Peruvian culture while you were there?
Ooh, that requires thought, going beyond the tourist checklist.
Definitely. Forces a bit of critical thinking and usually leads to a much more interesting story.
Okay, this feels like the perfect time for that Peru roleplay you mentioned. Let's really feel the difference.
Let's do it. You be the interviewer. Hit me with the closed questions first, the interrogation style. Make me feel like I'm passing through border control.
All right. You went to Peru, correct?
Yes.
Did you travel with other people?
Yes, with friends.
Was the trek to Machu Picchu difficult?
Yes. It was very difficult.
Did you sleep in hotels nearby?
No, we camped.
And the food, did you like the food?
It was.
No,
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Okay, stop.
Wow.
That felt like pulling teeth, honestly. My questions naturally got shorter, sharper, because I wasn't getting anything back. No warmth at all, just facts.
And from my side, I'm just waiting for the next question. Accessing the data files. Not my memories, not my feelings. It felt completely transactional, like ticking boxes.
Totally. Okay, reset. Let's do the natural version.
Yeah.
Open-ended questions. Invite the story. Okay, so tell me about Peru.
Oh, wow. Where do you even start? It was honestly overwhelming in the best way. The sheer scale of the Andes, you know, and the history, the layers of Incan civilization everywhere, plus the altitude. It really felt like stepping into another world, another time. Just breathtaking.
That sounds absolutely incredible. You mentioned the altitude, the mountains. What was maybe the most challenging part logistically? And how did you guys handle that?
Oh, that's a good question. The challenge was definitely the Inca Trail itself, the 4-day hike. We were carrying our gear, and parts of it were just relentless. Steep stone steps, climbing for hours each day. It took serious focus, serious stamina.
Wow. How'd you manage?
We kind of broke it down. Set small goals each hour. And honestly, keeping morale up was key. Sharing stories, laughing around the campfire each night made a huge difference. Team effort.
That sounds intense, but worth it, I imagine. Knowing how tough it was, what was that feeling like when you finally reached the sun gate overlooking Machu Picchu? Can you paint a picture of that moment?
Oh, man. I'll never forget it. We got there right at sunrise, just as the first light hit the ruins. The air was crisp, cold, but the light was this amazing gold. And seeing that ancient city just materialize out of the mist below after 4 days of pushing ourselves so hard, It was profound, really emotional, like this wave of relief, exhaustion, and just awe, all hitting at once, worth every single step.
Absolutely. The difference is just night and day. That second version was maybe 3 times longer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just facts. It had an arc challenge, effort, reward, emotion. You gave me a whole story, grounded in feeling. And you sounded so much more engaged yourself.
Well, yeah, because your questions signaled you were actually interested in the experience, not just the data points. An open question says, I'm ready to listen, tell me your story. And that's incredibly validating. It makes you want to share more.
So the big takeaway for leveling up our questions, always check, can this be answered with yes or no? If so, rephrase, use what, how, or maybe tell me about. Get those stories flowing.
That's the heart of it. But asking great questions, that's only half the battle. It's basically useless if you don't pair it with the other critical half.
Active listening.
Active listening, mastering it.
That's right, because it's not just about hearing the words, is it? It's about showing physically and verbally that you're locked in, engaged.
Absolutely. If you ask a brilliant open question, get a fantastic story, but then you glance at your phone or ask a follow-up that makes no sense based on what they just said.
They know. Instantly.
Yeah.
They know you weren't really listening, and the connection breaks.
Breaks completely. So let's break down how to show you're actively processing. 3 core techniques. Technique 1, positive body language. The silent signals.
Okay, and this is more than just make eye contact.
Oh, yeah, much more. Think about posture. Open posture, arms relaxed, not crossed, maybe leaning in slightly. It signals you're receptive, not defensive. You're welcoming their contribution.
Like you're opening yourself up to the conversation.
Exactly. And then there are micro signals. Things like nodding, not like a bobblehead, but a gentle nod shows, I'm following you, keep going. Mirroring can be powerful too. Subtly matching their energy or posture builds unconscious rapport.
Okay. Nodding for comprehension, mirroring for rapport, and the big don't.
The phone, we have to say it again. The source material is crystal clear on this. Looking at your phone, even for a second, it's basically the cardinal sin of modern conversation.
The ultimate sign of disrespect. Ouch.
It screams, whatever notification just buzzed is more important than you, the human in front of me. Kills rapport instantly. Put it away. Out of sight.
Message received. Okay. Technique 2. Encouraging sounds and phrases. The verbal cues.
Right. While they're talking, you need to provide these little auditory breadcrumbs that let them know the connection is still live.
Yeah.
That you're still with them.
So simple sounds.
Incredibly effective. A simple, or an empathetic, ooh. They signal, I'm tracking. Short affirming phrases work too. I see. Right. Okay. Or even, wow, that's interesting. They show you're processing.
And these need to match the tone, right? You don't say, wow, fantastic, if they're talking about something difficult.
Please don't, haha. Yes, match the content and emotion. If it's good news, a promotion, a success, your cues should be enthusiastic. That's amazing. Congratulations. You must be thrilled.
And if it's tough news, a problem, something sad.
Then you need to show empathy immediately. Remember, empathy is understanding and sharing the feelings of another. So use phrases like, oh no, I'm really sorry to hear that, or gosh, that sounds incredibly stressful, or that must have been difficult.
It validates their feeling, shows you get it on an emotional level, builds trust fast.
Super fast. Okay, technique 3. This is the advanced move. Repeating and paraphrasing.
This shows you're not just hearing, but really understanding. Synthesizing.
Exactly. Paraphrasing isn't just parroting, it's restating what they said, but in your own words. Condensing it, maybe checking your understanding, it requires real focus.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say your friend says, man, I was so nervous before my big presentation this morning. I barely slept, but honestly, it went really well in the end. My boss was impressed.
Okay.
An active listener might paraphrase like this. Wow, so even though you were really stressed and sleep deprived, you totally nailed the presentation and your boss noticed. That's fantastic.
I see. You summarize the key points, the stress, the success, the boss's reaction, but use slightly different words.
Exactly. And this does 2 huge things. 1, it confirms you understood correctly, clears up any potential mishearing.
Okay, practical benefit.
But 2, and this is the magic, it provides what you call a verbal receipt. It proves you are paying such close attention to the details, the effort, the emotions, that you could accurately reflect it back to them.
Makes the speaker feel incredibly heard, like really gotten.
Deeply appreciated. And that is the ultimate goal of active listening, making that person feel right then and there, like their story, their experience truly matters to you, like they're the most interesting person in the room.
So when you start layering all these things, the open questions, the body language, the The paraphrasing it stops feeling like a checklist.
And starts feeling like a natural, seamless, genuinely engaging dance.
Which leads perfectly into our final section,
Yeah.
this idea of the virtuous cycle and how it all culminates in finding common ground.
Exactly, because when you combine asking those powerful open questions with dedicated active listening, you create this positive feedback loop.
A virtuous cycle, explain that.
It's simple. A good thing happens, which causes another good thing to happen, which reinforces the first good thing. So, in conversation, you ask a great open question.
Okay.
They give you a rich, interesting answer because they feel invited to share.
Right.
You listen actively nodding, paraphrasing, showing empathy. You validate their effort and emotion. That appreciation makes them feel safe, understood, valued, which makes them more willing, more eager to share even more openly and vulnerably next time you ask.
So the cycle builds on itself. Good question, good answer, good listening, more trust, even better answer next time.
Precisely. It builds mutual trust. They start thinking, okay, this person gets it. They're genuinely curious. They're safe. It lowers the pressure for both of you. You move from feeling like it's an interview
To just exploring ideas together, a shared discovery.
Exactly. And that cycle is the engine that helps you find the real prize of conversation.
Common ground.
Common ground, that's the goal.
Where connection really happens. That overlap. Shared interests, shared experiences, maybe even shared opinions.
That's the magic moment where you both lean in and go, oh my gosh, me too.
That's the foundation for actual friendship, isn't it? Beyond just acquaintances.
Absolutely. But here's the crucial bit. You don't find common ground by talking about yourself endlessly.
Right. How do you find it then?
You find it by doing everything we just discussed. Ask open questions. Listen like your life depends on it. Scan their answers for points of connection, for overlaps with your own life, your knowledge, your passions.
Okay, so let's use an example. Shared interest. You ask what they do for fun, they say, I love watching old black and white movies. Or maybe you do too.
Bingo! That's your signal. Your moment. Don't let it pass.
First step, show enthusiasm, right? But more than just me too.
Yes. Oh, wow, me too. I'm a huge classic film buff. That's
Yeah.
good. But you need to immediately add a specific detail. Prove it. Deepen it.
Okay, so add something concrete related to that shared interest.
Exactly. Transition the focus slightly by adding your specific angle. You might say, oh, me too. Huge fan. I'm particularly obsessed with Alfred Hitchcock. Rear Window is probably my all-time favorite.
Naming a director a specific film, it proves your Me Too isn't just lip service, it's real.
Totally real. And it does something else. It gives them a new, specific thing to respond to. It shifts the dynamic from you interviewing them to both of you sharing a passion.
So they might come back with, Hitchcock. Yes, Rear Window is genius, but have you seen Notorious?
And boom, you're off. You're not doing small talk anymore. You're connecting over shared knowledge, shared enthusiasm. The ball is flying back and forth effortlessly now.
Love it. And this works for shared experiences too, like where you're from.
Absolutely. If they mention being from Brazil, say, and maybe you visited Rio a few years ago, don't wait.
Jump in.
Jump in, but make it relevant. Connect it directly. Oh, Brazil. That's amazing. I was lucky enough to visit Rio for Carnival back in 2019. The energy was just unbelievable.
Okay, so you share that specific, relevant experience immediately. It builds on their statement.
Yes. The key is balance. It's a dance, remember. Talking and listening. Asking and sharing. You're listening actively for those openings, those opportunities to share something relevant that builds on what they just offered. Always connect it back to them.
Got it. It's not about hijacking the conversation. It's about finding those points of genuine resonance and adding your piece to build a shared structure.
Beautifully put. A shared structure. That's exactly it.
Okay, so that brings us towards the end of this deep dive. Let's recap the toolkit we've built.
We have. Last time, we focused on serving up your own story, telling people who you are with clarity and confidence.
And in this deep dive, we've tackled the other side. Really listening to their story, returning that serve with skill, using follow-ups, asking open questions, listening actively.
And using all that to find those crucial points of common ground, transforming facts into narratives and narratives into connections.
So when you put both halves together, expressing yourself effectively and listening, gasking effectively,
you gain this incredible ability, the power to genuinely connect with almost anyone, anywhere. You're not just making small talk anymore. You're potentially building real relationships, turning strangers into, well, maybe not instantly friends, but potential friends.
the skills we've covered today, from converting closed questions to the power of a good paraphrase. It's all geared towards making the other person feel truly seen, heard, and appreciated. So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought, something to maybe mull over.
We've talked a lot about using these techniques with new people, strangers you're just meeting, trying to build that initial connection.
Right. But what about applying these very specific high-level listening skills? The really good open questions, the deliberate paraphrasing, the conscious empathy to the people already in your life.
Yeah. The people you think you know inside out, your partner, your kids, your parents, your closest colleagues.
How often do we just stop actively listening to them? Assume we know what they're going to say. Assume we understand their perspective already.
What if you consciously applied what was the most surprising part, or how did that actually make you feel? Questions to them. What insights might you unlock?
Could you discover nuances, feelings, perspectives you've been completely missing, even with people you see every single day? It's a challenging thought.
And one more angle. Think about digital communication. Text, email, Slack. All those places where body language and tone of voice are just gone. Misunderstandings happen constantly.
Oh, constantly.
How much more important are clear, open questions and deliberate paraphrasing? So just to make sure I understand, you're saying X in those contexts. Could applying these techniques consciously reduce conflict and build way more clarity in your work life, your digital interactions?
Lots to think about there. The power of truly listening, not just hearing.
Keep practicing these skills. Stay curious. Not just about the world, but maybe even more importantly, stay relentlessly curious about the people sharing it with you.
Great advice. Thanks for breaking that all down.
My pleasure. Until next time.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into essential skills. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take the most crucial social and intellectual skills and conduct a forensic analysis, distilling them into pure, actionable confidence for you.
That's right. And we have spent a significant amount of time building the foundation, haven't we? The foundation of great conversation.
We have. We've covered how to share your personal narrative effectively, make it compelling.
And critically, how to ask those really insightful questions, the ones that genuinely engage others and draw them out.
So if we stick with our vehicle metaphor for a minute, we've essentially meticulously built the car, got the chassis right, the engine tuned.
And we've ensured it has high-performance fuel in the tank, those good questions, that shared story. We know the basic mechanics, how to turn the key, start the engine.
Exactly. But, and this is the big but, knowing the mechanics isn't the same as mastering the road, is it?
Not at all. Precisely. So today, we're really learning how to drive it, how to handle it in real-world traffic.
Real-world traffic.
Because real-life conversations, well, they're dynamic, they're often unpredictable, and they're rarely just straight, smooth highways, unfortunately.
No, they're definitely not. They are filled with unexpected hazards, aren't they?
Yeah, potholes, traffic jams, unexpected detours.
And I think of those hazards as the moments that probably cause the most social anxiety for people. Sometimes you hit a massive traffic jam, the dreaded awkward silence, right?
Ooh, definitely.
Or sometimes you realize you're kind of going the wrong way, conversationally speaking, and you need to execute a clean, graceful lane change. You need to shift the subject smoothly.
Without causing whiplash.
Exactly. And maybe most critical, especially for preserving relationships, you absolutely need to know how to navigate a difference of opinion without causing a head-on collision.
And this is where true social mastery really resides, I think. It's relatively easy to talk when everyone agrees, when the flow is just perfect.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
But it takes real skill, genuine skill, to manage that friction, that uncertainty. So today, we're tackling the Advanced Navigation Manual.
The advanced stuff, okay.
How to politely disagree. The techniques you can use for fixing those awkward silences. Different methods for shifting the subject smoothly without being jarring.
Right.
And maybe the most essential and often overlooked skill, ending a conversation with grace, making a smooth exit.
Okay, let's unpack this then. This sounds like the curriculum for anyone who's serious about moving from being, let's say, an intermediate speaker.
Someone who can participate, hold their own.
Right. To becoming an advanced social navigator.
Yeah.
Someone who can actually guide the interaction, manage the tricky bits.
These skills manage the entire social dynamic, not just the words being said. It's about the undercurrents.
Okay. Let's grab the wheel then, and maybe start with what feels like the most anxiety-inducing maneuver for many people. Handling that friction, that disagreement.
Sounds good. Let's begin with Section 1, handling head-on collisions, the art of polite disagreement.
Disagreement. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because it really touches on these deeply ingrained cultural norms, but also psychological dynamics.
Well, absolutely. We seem wired almost instinctively to defend our own beliefs. And when those beliefs get challenged even slightly,
Yeah.
the immediate reaction is often quite defensive.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, even aggressive, depending on the person and the topic.
So the challenge here is psychological as much as it is linguistic, wouldn't you say?
I'd say primarily psychological. If you hear something you strongly disagree with, the temptation, the gut reaction is often to just offer a direct rebuttal.
Like, no, that's wrong, or I disagree entirely, just blunt.
Exactly. But in many cultures, what we call high context communication cultures, and frankly, often in professional settings almost everywhere, that kind of directness can read as an insult.
Right. Not just about the idea, but
It feels like an insult to the person's intelligence or their judgment, not just a critique of their specific idea.
and that immediate strong negation, that verbal collision, as we called it, it just shuts down the discussion completely, doesn't it?
Instantly. The other person stops listening to your point. They're immediately focused on defending themselves, their ego, their position. The shutters come down.
So the engagement is lost.
Completely. So the essential goal here is kind of twofold. First, you do want to express your truthful opinion, your perspective. Authenticity matters. But second, and equally important, you need to maintain the integrity of the relationship and the flow of the conversation.
Okay.
We're aiming to disagree with the idea while, very clearly, maintaining respect for the person. That's the critical separation we need to make.
Okay, so if we accept that hitting someone with a direct disagreement triggers this kind of ego defense mechanism, we need a strategy, right? That's something to bypass that defense.
That's good.
What's the tactical approach? How do we deliver a different opinion while making sure the listener actually stays receptive, stays open?
Okay, the core technique we teach here is what we call the cushion strategy.
The cushion strategy.
Okay, this is the fundamental approach. It essentially requires using a softening phrase, linguists sometimes call this a hedge, before you actually state your contrasting opinion.
Before. So the timing is crucial.
Absolutely crucial. This hedge, this cushion, performs a kind of necessary psychological triage first.
Triage. Why is that timing, putting the cushion first, so important? What's it actually doing psychologically?
It's primarily about reducing the perceived ego threat. By acknowledging the other person's point first, even if it's just minimally.
Like just showing you heard them.
Exactly. You validate their effort, their attention, their contribution. You're basically signaling, I heard you, I registered what you said, and I can understand why you might think that.
Okay.
And that acknowledgement, it acts almost like an olive branch. It dramatically lowers their cognitive guard before you introduce the potentially challenging or differing idea.
So it sounds like we're almost negotiating the listener's immediate emotional reaction before we even get to the substance of our own argument.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, we're managing the emotional space first.
Okay, so what are the tools? We need specific softening phrases, right? Precision is key here. What's in the toolkit?
Right. The basic toolkit, the everyday ones, include phrases that simply show you've processed their input. Things like, I see what you're saying, but...
Okay, simple.
Or, that's an interesting perspective, however. Notice the strategic use of but or however. They signal the turn, the transition to your point, without completely negating the initial acknowledgement.
Yeah, the interesting perspective one feels particularly useful. It's quite neutral, isn't it? It doesn't really imply approval, just recognition that they have a perspective.
Exactly. It's a validation of their viewpoint's existence, not its content necessarily.
But what about, say, more formal situations? Or maybe higher stakes environments, like a really important client meeting or a board discussion? Do we need sort of stronger, maybe more formal hedges there?
Absolutely. The context dictates the level of formality. In a more professional context, you might need to show a bit more deference, maybe to the depth of their thought or their position.
Okay.
So you could use something like, while I respect that viewpoint and I appreciate the effort behind it, I might perhaps suggest an alternative approach.
Suggest an alternative approach. That's quite gentle.
Or focusing on data can help depersonalize it. My initial reaction to that data set is slightly different. Or, based on the figures I've seen, I wonder if...
Ah, okay. That shifts the focus beautifully, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From potentially subjective feeling, I disagree, to a more objective consideration. The data suggests something else.
Precisely. It frames it as an interpretation issue, not a right-wrong battle.
Now let's flip it slightly. What about softening our own position? How do we prevent our alternative argument from sounding like some kind of absolute declaration of universal truth? Because that can be just as off-putting.
That's the other side of the coin, and it's equally important. This is where we consciously frame our opinion as personal, as subjective. You're claiming your perspective, not definitively disproving theirs.
So instead of asserting, the market is clearly going down.
Right, which sounds very final. Instead, you use phrases that personalize that viewpoint. You wrap it in subjectivity.
Okay, give me the toolkit for that personalization. What are the key phrases?
Key phrases would include things like, I'm not entirely convinced by that analysis. C, it's about your conviction level.
Right.
Or the very powerful personal frames. From my perspective, the key factor is actually X.
From my perspective.
Yes. Or the way I see it, perhaps based on the data I've been looking at, by explicitly stating the way I see it, you're implicitly granting them the right to maintain their own way of seeing it.
Okay. So you turn a potential confrontation into more of a comparison of the different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Like, here's mine alongside yours.
Exactly. It becomes additive, not oppositional.
Let's try to road test this with maybe a slightly more complex scenario. Something beyond just, dogs versus cats.
Okay, let's try one.
Imagine maybe a discussion about a controversial book or film, and your conversation partner offers a really strong moral judgment that you maybe quite profoundly disagree with.
Okay, let's set that up. Suppose the other person says something like, honestly, the author was completely irresponsible, maybe even morally bankrupt for publishing that book. It should be pulled from shelves immediately.
Wow, okay. That's definitely a high-stakes disagreement. Very emotionally charged.
Yes.
Now, if I just jump in with, no way, censorship is always wrong.
Yeah.
Well, the fight starts immediately, right?
Instantly, shields up.
Okay, so applying the cushion strategy, I might try something like, wow, I can definitely understand the strong emotional reaction that book provokes. Acknowledgement.
Good start, validating the emotion.
And I absolutely see where you're coming from regarding the sense of responsibility involved. Acknowledging their specific concern.
Okay, cushion deployed, now the hedge and your view.
However, hedge. The way I tend to look at this particular issue is maybe more through the lens of free expression, personal frame. And from that perspective, the idea of actually banning it, well, that might set a really challenging precedent down the line, alternative principle, reason.
That was excellent, really well executed. Let's break it down. You acknowledged the emotional core. Strong reaction. You validated their specific concerns, see where you're coming from.
Right.
The crucial hedge, however,
Right.
led smoothly into your personalized frame, the way I look at this. And crucially, you introduced a completely different principled argument, the idea of precedent, rather than directly attacking their moral judgment.
Yeah, I tried to shift the ground a bit so that it maintains the respect needed for the conversation to actually continue rather than just ending in outrage.
Precisely. That's the goal.
So the big takeaway here seems to be that disagreement doesn't have to be a test of who's right and who's wrong. It can actually be an invitation to expand perspectives.
Yes, exactly.
Provided you use that linguistic padding, that cushion, to protect the listener's ego along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about navigating, not winning. Okay, but now, let's shift gears slightly. Let's move from managing active friction to fixing a total breakdown, because sometimes the conversation doesn't collide.
It just stops.
It simply stalls out. Dead air.
No.
Which brings us neatly to section 2, fixing the dead battery, navigating those awkward silences.
Oh, that moment. That moment when the conversation just dies. It's such a sudden shift in energy, isn't it? And usually both people realize it simultaneously, like, uh-oh, we've run out of things to say.
Yeah, and it feels like the silence itself starts to get heavier and heavier. It creates this kind of uncomfortable pressure vacuum in the space between you.
Why does it feel so uncomfortable, though? What's the psychology there?
I think a lot of the discomfort comes from this perceived sense of obligation. We feel like someone has to fill the void, and maybe it's our fault it's there.
Right, the responsibility.
But it's important to analyze why the silence occurs. Often, it's not really a personal failing at all. It might just be cognitive burnout.
Cognitive burnout.
Yeah, one or maybe both people have simply exhausted the immediate topic cluster, the things they were just talking about. The mind kind of needs a second to reboot, to find a new track.
In that moment, the person who can skillfully restart the engine, so to speak, they become the conversational hero, don't they?
They really do. It's not about trying to avoid silence entirely. That's probably impossible and maybe even unnatural in long conversations.
Sure.
But it's about having A quick, graceful tool ready to deploy to end that silence before it spirals into genuine, prolonged awkwardness.
Okay, so what's the first rescue tool? Give us the strategy.
Our first go-to rescue tool is strategy 1, the back pocket question.
The back pocket question, I like that.
Think of it like having emergency jumper cables in the trunk of your car. It's a general open-ended question that you've mentally prepared beforehand and can instantly deploy in these conversational emergencies.
Okay, so what are the key characteristics of a good back pocket question? Because it can't be too deep or personal, right? That might just create more pressure.
Exactly. It must be relatively low stakes. It needs to be almost universally applicable, something you could ask almost anyone, and ideally inherently positive or forward-looking.
Okay.
It just needs to offer a clean pivot point, a fresh start. The classic example honestly remains incredibly effective. So, do you have any fun plans for the upcoming weekend?
The weekend question. Simple but effective. Why is that one so powerful, do you think?
Well, a few reasons. It instantly shifts the focus away from the potentially exhausted past or present topic and moves it towards the future, which often feels lighter.
Right. Less pressure.
It's inherently optimistic, fun plans, and it generally requires minimal cognitive load to answer. Most people can come up with something.
Yeah, even if the answer is just, oh no, I'm just planning on staying home and relaxing.
Exactly. And even that answer immediately opens up potential follow-up questions. Oh, really? Are you planning a properly relaxing weekend or maybe catching up on a big project? See, It generates new conversational material very easily.
That's the hard reset then, the emergency restart. But I can see a potential danger here. If you just deploy a sort of rote question like that too coldly or out of the blue, couldn't it sound a bit, rote? Like a sudden, maybe insincere interrogation.
Well, that's a very crucial refinement. Yes, you're right. You generally have to pair the back pocket question with a brief contextual observation or transition.
Bridge it in somehow.
Yes. So if you're at, say, a networking event, you might quickly observe the environment first. Something like, wow, it's certainly busy in here tonight, isn't it?
Okay.
Anyway, just to shift gears for a second, are you perhaps planning to take any time off soon? Any upcoming trips? The observation transitions more smoothly into the question, making it feel less abrupt, less rehearsed.
Got it. That observation acts like a little ramp into the question. Okay, that makes sense. Now, that moves us towards maybe a slightly more sophisticated approach, doesn't it? Strategy 2, re-engaging by listening.
Yes, this is where we really leverage those deep listening skills we've talked about before.
Right.
This technique, when done well, demonstrates a really high level of conversational engagement. And the technique itself is actually quite simple in concept.
Which is?
You simply refer back to something the other person said earlier in the conversation. Maybe it was just a passing detail, something from 10 minutes ago that wasn't fully explored at the time.
The callback. This immediately tells the listener, without you having to explicitly say it, hey, I was actually paying attention to your story earlier.
Exactly. It builds massive, genuine rapport because it validates their previous input so effectively. People love to feel heard.
So give me an example. The silence hits. What do I do?
Okay, so the silence hits. You quickly scan your memory of the conversation. You recall them mentioning maybe briefly their hobby of pottery.
Okay, pottery.
You bridge the silence by saying something like, you know, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you've been working on pottery lately. I was curious, what's the biggest challenge you usually face when you're trying to get a piece to fire correctly in the kiln?
Wow, okay. The specificity of that question, fire correctly in the kiln, that really proves you were truly listening, doesn't it? It's not just a generic, so tell me more about your hobby.
Precisely. The specificity is key. It allows the speaker to easily pick up a thread they already laid down earlier, making the restart feel incredibly natural, completely unforced.
Okay, so these two strategies, the quick restart with the back pocket question and the more rapport-building recall, seem vital for preventing that awkward silence from actually turning into a feeling of disconnection.
That's the goal. Keep the connection alive.
Now, sometimes the engine hasn't actually died, the silence hasn't hit, but maybe the current road we're on, it just feels like a dead end. Or maybe it's just not very interesting anymore. We need to deliberately exit the current topic and find a more interesting route. And that requires a really smooth gear shift, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Which shifts us neatly into section 3, changing lanes, shifting the subject smoothly.
Okay, so why is this transition so necessary sometimes? I mean, obviously, sometimes the topic is just naturally exhausted. We've said all there is to say.
Right, that's the simple case.
But other times, we might need to shift because the subject has maybe become repetitive, or it's turned negative, or perhaps genuinely uncomfortable for one or even both people involved.
Exactly. And in those moments, you need an escape route, but one that doesn't feel like you've just slammed on the conversational brakes.
Yeah, that sudden jolt.
That's what we want to avoid. The goal is to avoid that conversational jolt, that abrupt, often jarring feeling when someone just launches into an entirely new, seemingly unrelated topic out of nowhere. Good subject shifting maintains the forward momentum of the interaction.
Okay, so let's start with the most gentle maneuver first. The one where we try to connect the old topic to the new one, even as loosely. Strategy 1, the bridge phrase.
The bridge phrase. Right. It essentially provides a momentary, logical-sounding link between the two topics, even if the actual content is quite distant.
So it signals the intended shift.
Yes, using a shared, abstract concept as the connection. The most versatile bridges often focus on shared themes like challenge or time or planning or travel, something broad.
And the absolute classic phrase here has to be, that reminds me. Right.
Yes, that reminds me is the fundamental tool in this kit. But let's expand on that a bit. Suppose we were just discussing, say, a really tough negotiation you had at work.
Okay.
The topic's kind of done. Maybe we've analyzed it enough, but we've exhausted the details. Now we need to move to something completely different, maybe something lighter, like your vacation plans.
Okay, so the link isn't obvious between tough negotiation and vacation. How do I bridge that? Maybe I can use the concept of relief or needing an escape as the bridge.
That's perfect. Show me how you'd execute that transition.
Okay, so you've just finished talking about the negotiation. I might say, wow, we've spent so much time talking about that really intense project. Acknowledgement. Speaking of needing a break, though, bridge concept. Intensity break. That actually reminds me, I think I heard you were planning a trip to the coast soon. Have you managed to finalize your hotel arrangements yet? New topic.
That was highly effective, very smooth. The linking concept was clearly intensity leads to needing a break, and you use the specific phrase, speaking of needing a break, to gracefully exit that professional lane and merge into the personal vacation lane of conversation.
Yeah, it felt pretty natural, intentional, but smooth.
Exactly. But let's face reality, right? Often there really is no obvious shared conceptual bridge. There's just no logical link.
True. You might be deep in a discussion about, I don't know, quantum physics 1 minute, and then suddenly realize you desperately need to ask about the delicious-looking cake you just saw on the buffet table.
Right. There's no natural bridge between quantum entanglement and cake.
Probably not.
So that requires strategy 2, the direct shift. This is for completely unrelated topics. Since you can't link the topics logically, you have to link them linguistically.
How do you mean linguistically?
You do it by explicitly flagging the change of subject. You announce the jump.
Ah, okay. So we need polite little flags, verbal signals, to acknowledge, hey, I'm changing the subject now. What are the best specific phrases for that direct shift?
Okay, for a more professional or formal setting, the flag needs to be quite clear and respectful of the cognitive jump you're asking the other person to make. So things like, on a completely different note, I actually wanted to circle back to something I saw earlier.
Okay, on a completely different note, clear flag.
Or, to pivot our discussion entirely for a moment, I was curious about, again, explicitly stating the pivot.
Right. And what about for a more informal setting? You know, chatting with friends, where maybe flow and speed matter a bit more.
The informal standard, the most versatile one, is probably just, anyway. It's short, simple, signals closure of the previous topic, and openness to a new one.
Anyway, yeah, use that all the time.
Or sometimes, before I forget, can work if you're genuinely remembering something unrelated you wanted to ask.
Okay.
So if you're in a casual conversation, maybe moaning about the long stretch of rainy weather, and you want to transition to asking their opinion on a new local restaurant, you could simply say, anyway, enough about this depressing rain. Listen, have you had a chance to try that new Thai place that opened up down the street yet?
Okay. That feels much less jarring than just randomly blurting out, tried the Thai place.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that the previous subject, the rain, is now closed.
Exactly. The anyway closes the door on the old topic before opening the new one.
Now, here's a slightly trickier challenge, perhaps. What if you need to shift the subject away from something sensitive or maybe uncomfortable that the other person is sharing? How do you apply that direct shift without seeming really dismissive or uncaring?
That's a critical distinction. In that kind of sensitive scenario, the direct shift absolutely must first include explicit validation of what they shared and possibly a brief, gentle reason for shifting.
Okay, validation first.
Yes. You might say something like, wow, that sounds like a genuinely difficult situation you went through, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me. Validation. I don't want us to dwell on something that might be painful right now, so perhaps to shift gears just for a moment, flagging the shift gently. Plus reason I actually wanted to ask you about. New, lighter topic.
Okay, so you validate the pain first, then you flag the shift, and crucially, you frame it as moving on for their comfort. Don't want to dwell on something painful, not because you're bored or uncomfortable.
Precisely. That provides the necessary social grace, the empathy required in that moment.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Right, so we've learned how to start, how to navigate conflict, how to restart after silence, and now how to shift lanes smoothly. That leaves the final and maybe most crucial maneuver of all, actually getting off the highway, taking the exit ramp.
Exactly. Which moves us logically to section 4, taking the exit ramp, ending gracefully.
And this is just paramount, isn't it? Because those last few seconds of a conversation often determine the lasting memory trace, the final impression.
Absolutely. A clumsy, abrupt, or awkward exit can genuinely negate 20 minutes of really positive rapport you might have built up.
Yeah, all that work down the drain. And we can't just, turn around and walk away mid-sentence. That's obviously incredibly rude. It signals a total lack of respect and maybe even makes the other person feel dismissed.
Right. So you need to provide a clear, polite, undeniable signal that the conversation is naturally reaching its conclusion. These are our exit lines, and they have to be deployed thoughtfully, with intention.
And the purpose isn't just to leave, right? It's also about showing respect for the other person's time and their boundaries.
Precisely. It's about closing the interaction smoothly and positively.
Okay, we definitely need that structured roadmap again. Let's really delve into the specifics of the 3-part exit strategy you mentioned.
Okay. Signal 1, the pre-closer word. Now, this sounds deceptively simple, but it's incredibly effective culturally, especially in English.
Okay.
Use the word well right at the very beginning of your exit phrase.
Just well.
Just well. In English conversation, starting a concluding statement with well acts as a very common, almost subconscious signal. It indicates a change in direction is coming, often a closure, a summation, or a transition towards departure.
Ah, okay. It's like the verbal equivalent of subtly gathering your things before leaving a meeting room. The listener's brain kind of registers, okay, the summary is coming or the departure is imminent.
Exactly. It prepares them subconsciously for the end.
Yep.
Okay, so once we've sent that initial soft signal with, well, what's signal 2?
Signal 2 is the clear and polite exit line itself. This is where you state your intention to leave unambiguously but politely.
Yeah.
And we need variations here based on the context, right?
We do. Let's look at the general politeness standard first, the kind of all-purpose.
Yep.
The baseline, pretty safe approach is warm and direct. Well, it was so lovely talking to you. I probably should get going now. This is appropriate for almost any casual or semi-formal situation. Simple, clear, polite.
Okay. Now, I personally always prefer the type of line that subtly puts the onus on me respecting their time rather than just focusing on my own schedule. It feels a bit more deferential.
Yes, that's the time-conscious exit, and it's actually highly strategic, as you say. It often elevates your perceived status because it positions you as considerate and very respectful of boundaries.
So what does that sound like?
It sounds like, well, I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time this evening, but it really has been a fascinating discussion.
Valuable time. I like that. Highly respectful.
Very. And what if we're at, say, a structured event, a conference, a party, maybe even just a busy gathering, and we need a more concrete reason for moving on?
Right, the logistical exit.
That requires a reason-based exit, and it should ideally be tied to the immediate environment or schedule. The reason should feel plausible and generally neutral.
Yes.
Something like, well, I really should make sure I catch the keynote speaker who's starting in a few minutes. Or perhaps, well, I'm actually going to go grab another drink before the next session starts, but it was a real pleasure meeting you.
Okay, that makes the departure feel purely logistical, not personal, like you're rejecting them.
Exactly. It's about circumstance, not choice.
Now, here's a key nuance I've always wondered about. How do you gracefully exit a group conversation? Say there are 3 or 4 people actively engaged and you need to leave. You can't just address one person with your exit line, can you?
That's an excellent point. Exiting a group requires a slightly broader acknowledgement and often a small physical gesture, like a slight step back as you speak.
Okay.
You should ideally address the whole group with a final, generalized positive statement first. Something like, listen, everyone, I've really enjoyed this discussion.
Addressing the group. Then the signal. Signal 1. Well, I'm actually going to have to step away now, but I wish you all a great rest of the event. You need to try and make brief eye contact with everyone in the group as you deliver the line, if possible.
Okay, that makes sense. A broader address for a broader audience. Right. So once the polite exit line, signal 2, is delivered, we then transition smoothly to the final positive step, signal 3.
Signal 3 is the future link. This is absolutely crucial for preventing the conversation from just feeling like a dead end, like it's over forever.
Right, keeps the door open.
Exactly. It suggests the possibility or even the intention of future contact, leaving the relationship feeling warm and open-ended. It's critical because it subtly proves the interaction was valuable enough to potentially warrant a continuation sometime down the road.
Okay. What are some of the best future links, maybe depending on the context or the level of connection we felt?
Okay, for a general, very low commitment link, maybe after a brief chat, you could just say, well, I hope we can chat again sometime soon, or simply enjoy the rest of your evening day. Pleasant, but non-committal. Okay, the basic polite sign-off.
For professional networking, however, you must be more specific if you want it to mean anything. Well, let's definitely connect on LinkedIn. I'd love to follow up with you about that X topic we discussed.
Specific platform, specific reason. Much stronger.
Much stronger. And if you feel a genuine personal connection has been made, you might elevate the request further. You know, we really should exchange contact information. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime soon.
Suggesting a specific future activity, that carries more weight.
It does. The specificity of the future link really dictates the perceived value of the interaction you just had. If you suggest coffee, you're implicitly saying the discussion was highly valuable and you want more. If you just say, see you around, the implied value was lower.
Right. So the future link acts as a kind of measure of the rapport that was actually built during the conversation.
Precisely. It's the final calibration.
Okay, let's try to put all three signals together now. The polite line, and the future link into maybe an extended role play scenario. Let's say we are at a high-level industry conference. I need to exit the conversation with you, the expert, because I have a critical, scheduled meeting or session I absolutely cannot miss.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be wrapping up a thought. Let's say I'm sharing my final insight on the future of AI investment trends. And so, realistically, that particular disruptive technology is likely going to hit significant maturity within, say, the next 18 months or so.
Wow, that is absolutely fascinating analysis. Honestly, I feel like I learned a tremendous amount about that specific market segment just now. Acknowledgement of value.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoyed sharing the perspective.
Well, signal one. Listen, I actually have a scheduled breakout session on regulatory changes that I absolutely need to dash off to in a minute, and I really don't want to make myself late for that, so I unfortunately need to cut this short. Signal two. Clear, reason-based, exit line, time constraint, and schedule.
Oh, of course. No problem at all. I completely understand. Go, don't be late.
It was really wonderful meeting you, though, and I would genuinely love to continue this conversation, perhaps once I've had a bit more time to digest all this great information. Tell you what, let's definitely connect on LinkedIn. I'll make a note to send you an invitation later this afternoon. How about that? Signal three, specific future link platform, action, timeframe.
Please do. That sounds excellent. I look forward to connecting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for your time. Have a really wonderful rest of the conference.
You as well. Good luck with the session.
Thanks. Okay, analysis complete. I think that felt like a pretty good exit, right?
I'd say that was a perfect exit, yes.
It felt positive. It was highly respectful because I offered that clear, time-related reason that wasn't about you, it was about my schedule.
Right. And the promised future link was very specific. Connect on LinkedIn, sending the invitation later this afternoon. That specificity adds a layer of sincerity and makes it much more likely to actually happen.
Yeah, vague promises often get forgotten.
Exactly. That's mastery. The entire exit sequence, including my response acknowledging it, probably took less than 30 seconds in real time.
Sure.
And yet it ensured that the positive final impression was entirely intact, maybe even enhanced, and the door was left wide open, ready for the next interaction. That's the real power of having a structure for these things.
So, wrapping this all up then, what does this all mean for our listeners? We've essentially covered the complete roadmap for navigating these higher stakes conversational moments, haven't we? Moving from that foundational start right through to the graceful final exit.
We really have.
This feels like the difference between just, talking and actually navigating a social interaction with skill.
I agree. We've aimed to provide the essential toolkit for managing both friction and flow effectively. So just to recap the core tools. For handling disagreement, remember that cushion strategy.
Right, acknowledge first.
Acknowledge their point respectfully. Hedge your disagreement with something like, I see your point, but, or from my perspective. And then frame your own opinion as personal, not absolute. That minimizes the ego defensiveness.
Okay, and then when the conversation just stalls out into that awkward silence?
You've got two primary options ready. Option one is the emergency restart. Use a positive, low-stakes back pocket question, like the weekend plans one.
The quick jumpstart.
Option two is the high rapport restart. Refer back to a specific detail the person shared earlier in the conversation that proves you were genuinely engaged and listening deeply.
Shows respect for their contribution.
Exactly. And when you actively need to change topics, deploy those smooth gear shifts. Use a bridge phrase like, speaking of challenges, that reminds me, if you can find some kind of conceptual link between the topics.
Find the connection.
Or, if there's no connection, use a clear, direct flag like, anyway. Or, on a completely different note, to explicitly signal the jump to an unrelated subject.
Announce the turn.
And finally, maybe the element that ties it all together, that graceful exit. Remember to implement the three-part strategy consistently.
Okay. Signal the end first with, well.
Then deliver a polite, clear, and context-appropriate exit line, whether it's general politeness, time-conscious, or reason-based.
And crucially, cement the positive feeling in the relationship with a suitable future link, suggesting potential future contact.
This knowledge, having these frameworks and phrases ready, really empowers you, the listener, to step into almost any social challenge, whether it's a potentially contentious meeting, a quiet one-on-one that feels like it's drifting, or a demanding networking event with genuine confidence.
Yeah, it feels like you now possess the complete conversational toolkit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Encompassing both the mechanics of what to say, the content, and the social grace of managing the how, the dynamics.
That's the goal, from the first hello to the final goodbye.
We truly believe that mastering how all these techniques we've discussed is absolutely vital for effective communication. But maybe as we close out this deep dive, we should leave you, our listener, with one final, perhaps more provocative thought to consider.
Yes, let's do that. Because mastery of technique, as important as it is, should probably never eclipse the fundamental human objective behind conversation.
Which is?
Remember that every single conversation you have, really, regardless of its duration or how easy or difficult it feels, is fundamentally an opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
An opportunity to learn something completely new, maybe something unexpected, and perhaps more importantly, an opportunity to forge a genuine connection with another person's unique perspective, their way of seeing the world.
So use these tools not just to survive potentially difficult conversations, but actually to thrive within them, to find the connection.
Exactly. Be brave enough to engage, even when it feels tricky. Keep practicing these maneuvers consciously at first until they become second nature, because the ultimate destination, we believe, is always aiming for a deeper, more authentic human connection.
A fantastic thought to end on.
Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, so we've spent, a fair bit of time together really digging into the art of the one-on-one conversation. We started right back at the beginning, those first awkward hellos, worked through sharing personal stories, even how to make a smooth exit, a good goodbye. It really feels like we've given you, the listener, a solid map for that kind of duet.
It's a huge foundation, definitely. You should feel equipped now for pretty much any chat with just one other person. But if you think about social skills as a game, you cleared the main level. Today we're diving into what feels like the final boss, moving from that comfortable duet into the controlled chaos of a group. It's shifting from just two instruments to conducting, or at least navigating, the whole social orchestra.
Right, the orchestra. That's the mission today. And it sounds like it pulls together everything we've talked about before: listening, asking good questions, self-awareness, but all happening at once under pressure. So yeah, the focus is how to not just survive in a group, but actually thrive and maybe even build some real lasting connections out of it.
Exactly. It really is the top tier of social skill. And I think it's useful to break down why groups feel so much harder than talking one-on-one. Understanding the challenge is like step one to beating it.
Okay, let's do that. Let's unpack the difficulty. Why does talking to, say, 4 people feel so much more intimidating than just one?
Well, The sources we looked at point to three main challenges, and they kind of build on each other. The first one is pretty obvious, but maybe we underestimate it sometimes. It's just the faster pace.
Yeah.
Add more people, the conversation speeds up. Simple as that. You've got multiple people vying for, limited airtime. The gaps to jump in get smaller. Hesitate for a second.
And boom, the topic's moved on.
Exactly. 2 topics later, sometimes.
And if you're someone who naturally thinks things through a bit more, or maybe just takes a second longer to phrase things, that speed alone can feel like drowning. But is it just about talking louder or, interrupting more?
No, not really, because that speed directly fuels the second big challenge, turn-taking uncertainty. In a one-on-one, you get clearer signals, right? Body language, eye contact shifts, maybe the voice drops a little, they're done.
Yeah.
In a group, those signals get all muddy. It's confusing, so you're constantly battling that little voice asking, am I about to interrupt? Was that a pause or the end? Or the flip side, you finally gear up to speak and someone just talks right over you.
Oh yeah, that anxiety is so real. You don't want to be the steamroller, but you also don't want to sit there crafting the perfect sentence in your head for 10 minutes, only to realize everyone's now talking about something completely different.
And that leads right into the third challenge, which can be particularly tough for quieter folks or anyone still building their confidence. Invisibility. It's surprisingly easy to just fade into the background in a group of, say, 5 or more. You become an observer, not a participant. And that feeling of being unseen, it makes the whole thing feel like.
Oh, well, like you said earlier, trying to jump onto a moving merry-go-round. That moving vehicle image really sticks. If you mistime it, you're just left standing there watching the conversation spin away without you.
So, okay, the first big hurdle is just getting on the merry-go-round. How do we approach that? How do you get into a conversation that's already buzzing along smoothly and politely?
Right, this is what we call scout the territory phase. Super important. Your first task isn't actually speaking, it's listening and observing. You're approaching the group like a respectful visitor first, not barging in demanding attention.
And a lot of that starts non-verbally, right? Before you even think about saying anything.
Absolutely. Your body language when you walk up matters way more than whatever opening line you're rehearsing. Keep it open, relaxed, stand close enough to be part of the circle, but not, invading personal space. The really key things are simple. Nod a little as people talk, show you're following, smile naturally. And crucially, make eye contact with whoever is speaking at that moment. That eye contact piece feels vital. It's like a silent message saying, hey, I'm tuned into what you're saying right now. I respect the flow here. You're signaling you're an interested potential contributor, not someone about to hijack the conversation.
Precisely, because if you're just standing there looking at your shoes or gazing off into the distance.
Yeah, it reads as, I'm just waiting for my turn.
Exactly. It creates resistance. So once you've got that nonverbal thing going, showing you're listening, then you need to patiently wait for a real opening.
Okay, but what is a real opening? Sometimes, especially in lively groups, the pauses feel like milliseconds. If you wait for a big, obvious silence, are you ever going to get in?
That's a really good point. And no, you're not usually waiting for some long, awkward silence. That hardly ever happens if the conversation's flowing well. A real opening usually looks like one of two things. Either it's a natural transition point, like the speaker finishes their main story or point, and there's that tiny beat, that micro pause where everyone's processing, or it's what you could call a conversational relief valve. Someone actually asks a question to the whole group, So what does everyone else think about that?
Okay, so spot that tiny beat, that micro pause, or the group question, and then you have to use it wisely. Which brings us to the actual entry technique. That moment is short, so what you say needs to be quick, effective, and not feel like you're throwing a wrench in the works.
Right, and the number one goal here has to be validate, don't disrupt. Your opening line needs to connect directly to the last thing that was said. Don't use it to suddenly pivot to your own topic. This is critical because it instantly proves you were actually listening and you respect the conversation that was already happening.
Okay, let's use that movie example. Say the group's debating the ending of some big sci-fi movie. One person, let's call her Jane, just gave this really passionate take on the symbolism. Everyone takes a breath for a split second.
Okay. Instead of jumping in with, speaking of movies, did anyone see that new comedy, which is like a conversational hand grenade?
Total derail this.
You seize that micro pause.
Yeah.
Maybe make eye contact with Jane and say something like, Jane, that's a really interesting way to think about the symbolism. I hadn't actually considered the colors in that final scene, meaning that.
Ah, I see. That's simple, positive, and it directly builds on her point. But why is validating her so powerful, especially in a group?
Because in groups, people often feel like they're fighting to be heard, even subconsciously. When you enter by affirming the person who just spoke, you subtly position yourself as an ally, not just another competitor for airtime. You make Jane feel good, feel heard, and people remember who made them feel good. So you've entered smoothly, and you've built a little bit of positive social feeling right off the bat.
Okay, but what if Jane just gives a quick, "Oh, thanks," and then silence? How do you prevent the conversation from stalling right after you've made that nice entry? How do you use that validated entry to, like, open things up again instead of just launching into your own big theory about the movie?
Yeah, good question. That's the crucial follow-through. If Jane's reply is brief, you don't just leave it hanging. You immediately pivot back to the group using an open-ended question that's still linked to Jane's point you just validated. So you might say, it does make you wonder about the director's choices there, though. Did anyone else feel like maybe they relied a bit too heavily on visuals instead of dialogue to get that idea across? Hey, you've widened the focus, invited everyone else back in. You entered, you affirmed Jane, and then you immediately facilitated more discussion.
Entered, affirmed, facilitated. Got it. Okay. All right, so we've navigated the tricky entry. We're in the conversation. Now, section 2 hits on that ongoing balancing act. You've got the floor for a moment. How do you contribute without taking over the whole show? Because honestly, the biggest mistake I see people make in groups is thinking that just talking a lot means they're connecting.
Exactly, and this is where we have to keep that orchestra analogy firmly in mind. You might be playing an important instrument, maybe even leading a section, but you are not the soloist for the entire performance. Your job is to add your part at the right time to make the whole thing sound better. The fundamental error is trying to monopolize the conversation.
Monopolize, yeah, meaning just taking total control, often kind of aggressively, right? I think we can all picture that person. Someone asks a simple question about, I don't know, weekend plans, and they launch into a 10-minute blow-by-blow account of their entire Saturday. No breaths taken.
And that person often has no idea the negative impact they're having. When you monopolize, you're basically sending a message. My thoughts and experiences are way more important than anyone else's here. People might nod along politely on the outside, but inside, they're tuning out, they're checking the clock, they're probably feeling a bit resentful. It just kills any real chance of connection.
Okay, so to fight that natural urge, some people have to just keep talking once they have the spotlight. The source material gives us a really neat tool. The 1-point rule. Simple name. Tell me about it.
It's beautifully simple, really designed for keeping the group conversation flowing. The rule is just this. Make your point or tell your relevant short story, and then stop. That's it. The key is brevity. Make your contribution concise, easy for others to digest. Think of it like adding a quick, tasty ingredient, not dumping the whole spice rack in at once.
I like that. It forces discipline. But, okay, I can see a potential issue. You wait for your moment, you make a brilliant point, and then just stop. It feels kind of unnatural, especially if you feel like you finally got a word in edgewise. What if your point actually needs like 2 or 3 connected parts to make sense? Are you sacrificing clarity just to be brief?
That's a really smart question, and it highlights the nuance, right? If your point genuinely is more complex, you can signal that. You can start by saying something like, okay, I have sort of 3 quick thoughts on that. That way, the group knows to expect something a bit longer. But honestly, for most social chats, the best practice is usually to find the one core idea in what you want to say, deliver that clearly, and land it.
Okay, make the 1 point. And crucially, the rule isn't really complete without the next step, is it? You have to immediately pass the conversational ball.
Yes, that's vital. Your job isn't just to talk and stop. It's to contribute and then instantly shift the focus away from yourself. The smoothest way to do this is often by linking your point to an open-ended question, either for the whole group or maybe directed at someone specific who hasn't said much, for instance. So that's kind of how I see it based on my experience. But I'm curious, has anyone else here had to deal with, say, the budget side of that kind of project?
That intentional handoff, that deflection of the spotlight, that really leads us into what you mentioned as the most valuable role you can play in a group, being the facilitator or the includer.
Yes, this is definitely the more advanced skill set. A facilitator, or a bridge builder, as we sometimes call them, isn't primarily focused on scoring their own points. Their main goal is to make the conversation better for everyone else. They're like the social architect of the group, making sure the dynamic stays positive, balanced, and making sure people feel included.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate here, doesn't that come at a cost to you? If you're spending all your mental energy making sure other people get to talk, tracking who's quiet, passing the ball, Do you ever get to share your cool stories or ideas? Is the facilitator just like the unpaid therapist of the group, never the interesting guest?
Huh. That's the common fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, the reality tends to be the opposite. Facilitators don't really sacrifice their voice. They actually elevate their value. Think about it. By consistently making sure others feel heard and involved, the facilitator builds up this huge bank of social trust and goodwill. People see them not just as nice, but as having high emotional intelligence, being generous. So when the facilitator does decide to share their own point or story, guess what? People listen really closely because they respect that person and their intentions.
That makes a lot of sense. They become the person everyone implicitly trusts to keep the conversation good. Okay, so let's get practical. How does this bridge builder actually operate day to day or minute to minute in a chat? What are the moves?
Right, let's dedicate this section 3, to the facilitator's toolkit. Starting with strategy 1, actively bringing in the quiet voice. This takes good observation skills, a bit of empathy, and some careful phrasing.
So first step is just noticing someone who hasn't spoken much. Let's stick with Maria from our earlier example. You see she's been quiet. You acknowledge that mentally, maybe even a quick reassuring glance her way, but then you need to plan the verbal bridge. You have to link the current topic to a question for her, right? And it needs to feel safe.
Safe is the key word there. You definitely don't want to put Maria on the spot with something super controversial or like deeply personal out of the blue. The question has to flow naturally from what everyone else is already talking about so she doesn't feel ambushed or like she has to suddenly change the whole vibe. But it also needs to be open-ended enough that she can actually share something, not just give a yes-no answer.
Okay, let's try that role play again, the travel one. I'll set it up. I'll be the person talking just before the facilitator steps in. Honestly, our trip to Italy was amazing. But the real surprise was the street food tours we did. Forget the fancy restaurants. Some of that simple stuff was mind-blowing.
Okay, facilitator stepping in. I'd first validate your point. That's so true, isn't it? Sometimes the simplest food is the absolute best.
Yeah.
You know, we've been sharing a lot of fun vacation memories, but Maria, I know you travel a ton for work, which must be a totally different kind of experience.
Thinking about one of those really draining work trips, was there ever like a simple meal you had that just felt incredibly comforting or brought you a little bit of unexpected joy?
Okay, wait. I noticed you tweaked the question from before. Instead of just best meal, you tied it to comfort on a draining work trip. Why that specific framing? Good catch. It's about lowering the barrier to entry. Asking, what's the best meal you ever had? Feels huge, right? Like you need a perfect, impressive answer. Asking about a comforting meal during a tough time grounds it in a relatable feeling. It validates her specific experience. Work travel isn't always glamorous and asks for something personal, but probably easier to recall than some best ever moment.
Okay, that makes sense. It feels less like a performance demand. All right, let's say Maria, feeling safer now, actually engages. She might say, oh gosh, yeah, Tokyo. After a crazy long flight and a massive presentation, I found this tiny little ramen place near the station. That bowl of ramen. It honestly felt like a warm hug. Simple, but perfect.
Great. Maria shared something. Now, the facilitator's job isn't quite done. You give a quick, warm affirmation to Maria. Oh, that sounds absolutely perfect, exactly what you needed.
Yep.
And then this is key. You pivot the conversation back to the group, but you use Maria's contribution as the launching point.
Got it. So I wouldn't just keep asking Maria about ramen. I'd broaden it out. I might say something like, that idea of comfort food when you're totally wiped out is so universal, isn't it? Does anyone else have a memory of a super simple meal totally saving the day when you were traveling or just exhausted?
Exactly. You validated Maria, you amplified her point by making it relatable, and then you smoothly passed the ball back to the whole group. Maria feels good, the group has a new angle on the topic, and you are the catalyst for that positive interaction.
Okay, but let's troubleshoot. What if Maria is really shy or just caught off guard? Even with the gentle question, what if she just murmurs, oh yeah, I had some soup once, it was okay? That kind of short, closed answer can kill the momentum and leave you, the facilitator, banging. What do you do then?
That's a real possibility, absolutely. The crucial thing is, don't abandon her or make it seem awkward if she gives a minimal answer. You just offer one more very gentle, very low-pressure follow-up, something light. You might smile warmly and say, just soup, huh? Sometimes that's all you need. Was it something about that specific soup or just, having something hot and easy right then? If she still gives a minimal answer like, yeah, just hot, you immediately give her an out. Say something like, totally get it, simple pleasures are the best. And then you smoothly pivot to that group question we just talked about.
The key is offering that second little nudge without it feeling like an interrogation. You give her one more chance, but veil gracefully if she doesn't take it.
Exactly. It's a light touch. And that idea of managing the group flow brings us to strategy 2, using more group-oriented questions. Facilitation isn't only about rescuing the quiet ones. It's about making the conversation flow well for everyone. A common trap, especially for people learning these skills, is defaulting to questions aimed at only one person at a time.
Right. Asking, "What do you think, John?" is great one-on-one, but in a group, if you only do that, it can turn into a weird kind of conversational ping pong. Like, you talk to John, then John talks back to you, then you talk to Sarah, Sarah talks back, and everyone else is just kind of watching the match.
A good facilitator actively mixes in questions for the collective. They intentionally open the floor. Instead of just asking Jane her opinion, you might say, "That's an interesting angle Jane brought up."
Right.
Quick show of hands, how many people here kind of feel the same way? Or, "Jane mentioned that specific book. Has anyone else here read it? What did you think when you first finished it?"
Ah, I see. That lowers the barrier for people to jump in. If someone has a quick thought or reaction, they don't have to wait to be formally called upon. It encourages more spontaneous back and forth.
Precisely. It proves that being effective in a group isn't just about how much you talk. It's about how much you enable others to talk and connect with each other. By focusing outwards on including people, on smooth transitions, you actually become the most valuable person in that conversation. You're essentially solving the puzzle of group dynamics for everyone else.
Okay, so we've covered getting in, contributing without dominating, and even the fine art of including others. That's huge. But let's be real, the ultimate reason we're learning all this isn't just to survive the office holiday party without hiding in the corner. It's about what comes after. It's about turning a good group chat into something more actual friendships, real connections.
This is the big leap, yeah. Section 4. And if we pull back to that bigger picture, you realize something important. People don't usually form lasting bonds with the person who is necessarily the funniest or the smartest or who talked the most. They form bonds with the person who made them feel heard, understood, and genuinely valued during the conversation.
So all those techniques we've discussed before, the active listening, the good follow-up questions, remembering little details about people, making sure everyone feels included, they're not just conversation tricks, they're tools for making people feel valued. The chat itself is almost like the scaffolding.
Right. And the connection, the relationship, that's the building you're actually constructing.
Okay, so let's say you did build some scaffolding. You were in a group, you used your skills, maybe you really clicked with someone over a shared interest, say, hiking. That great conversation is nice, but it often just evaporates if you don't do something next, right? That's the critical step, the follow-up.
Absolutely critical. It won't magically turn into a friendship just because you both like hiking. You have to take the initiative, take the next, sometimes slightly scary step.
Let's break down that follow-up strategy then, because this feels like where a little bit of vulnerability creeps in. You're putting yourself out there, suggesting more contact.
It generally happens in 2 parts. Part A is the exit statement. This happens right as the group conversation's ending or as you're physically leaving that immediate interaction.
And it needs to be specific to the person you connected with, yeah. Not just a generic, great chatting with everyone. You single out that one person.
Yes, targeted and personalized. And it should reference the thing you connected on. So sticking with the hiking example, as you're leaving, you might pull that person aside for a second and say, "Hey, it was really great talking about hiking trails with you. I'd love to hear more about that spot you mentioned in the mountains sometime."
Okay, that works. It's specific, hiking trails, spot you mentioned, and it clearly signals interest in continuing that specific conversation later. I'd love to hear more sometime. It's not just a vague, "we should totally hang out."
Exactly. It clarifies your interest without being pushy. That's part A. Then comes part B, the context bridge. This is the message, text, email, whatever, that you send maybe a day or 2 later, assuming you got their contact info. This is where you actually propose a next step, something concrete but low pressure.
What's the thinking on timing? Is it better to message right away, or does waiting a day or 2 seem less eager?
Generally, a day or 2 feels about right. It shows you're not desperately jumping on it the second you walked away, but the conversation is still fresh in both your minds. And the message itself has to reference the original meeting place or context. That's the bridge part. It avoids that awkward, "Wait, who is this again?" moment.
Okay, let's try drafting that message for the hiking connection.
Sure. It could be something like, "Hey, Name, great meeting you at Sarah's party on Saturday. Really enjoyed our chat about hiking." I was thinking about that trail you mentioned. Trail name sounds amazing. If you're ever heading out that way again and wouldn't mind company, I'd love to potentially tag along. No worries if not.
Okay, I like that. Let's break it down. 1, it references the context, Sarah's party on Saturday. 2, it references the specific topic, hiking, trail name. 3, it proposes a specific potential activity, tag along on a future hike. And 4, that no worries if not, at the end that feels important. It gives them an easy out.
Exactly, the courteous out. It respects their autonomy, lowers the pressure on them to say yes, and weirdly, makes it less awkward for you if they can't or don't want to. This context bridge message, this is the brave part. It's taking that connection out of the safe bubble of the party or the meeting and actively trying to plant it in the soil of real life. It shows genuine interest and initiative, which honestly most people find quite appealing in a potential friend.
I think the biggest mental block for people here is that fear of seeming needy or desperate by being the one to reach out first. How do you get past that?
You have to reframe it in your head. It's not a choice between looking desperate and acting cool. The real choice is between taking a small, calculated risk to build something potentially meaningful.
Right.
Or guaranteeing that the connection fades away simply because you were afraid to send a text message. Most people respect initiative. And if they say no or don't respond, it's almost never about you personally. They're busy, the timing's off, whatever. You haven't actually lost anything, but you've gained practice in being proactive. And that journey of taking initiative, of bridging the context, leads us naturally to the final and maybe the deepest layer of building connections. Mutual vulnerability. We can do all the techniques, follow all the steps, but really solid, lasting friendships. They're built on this, on being willing to be open, to show your real self, maybe even including the not so perfect parts.
Yeah, vulnerability is a word that I think sometimes scares people. They hear it and imagine they have to immediately confess their deepest fears or traumas on the second coffee date, which is usually not a good idea.
Definitely not. That's oversharing, not vulnerability. True vulnerability, especially early on, is much more gradual. It starts small. Think of small vulnerability as just sharing a little bit of your reality that shows an honest emotion or maybe a minor imperfection. Low risk, but high authenticity.
Okay, give me some concrete examples. What does small, safe vulnerability look like in practice? Maybe even back in that group setting.
It could be as simple as saying something like, wow, I was actually pretty nervous about coming to this networking thing tonight. I don't know many people, but I'm really glad I came. This has been a great chat. Or maybe sharing a small, relatable struggle. I'm trying to learn this new software for work, and honestly, the first few times I tried, it was a total disaster. But I think I'm finally starting to figure it out.
I see. So by admitting you were nervous or that you struggled with something, you're implicitly signaling, hey, I'm human, I'm not perfect. And that kind of gives the other person permission to be human and imperfect too.
That is exactly the magic of it. That's the core of the bond. When you share something real, even something small, like feeling nervous or messing up learning software, you create this little pocket of safety. You invite the other person to share something real too. And when they respond with, oh my gosh, me too, I totally bombed my first attempt at that software, or I always get nervous at these things too, that's the moment. That's when the connection clicks up a level from just polite chat to something genuinely shared, a real bond starting to form.
And then presumably as trust builds in the friendship, the level of vulnerability can deepen over time, but it's always mutual, right? A gradual shared opening up.
Always mutual, always pace. It's what fuels intimacy and makes friendships truly meaningful and lasting. And really, with that piece, with understanding vulnerability, we've kind of assembled the whole picture. We've built the entire pyramid from those basic skills right up to the peak, forming real connections, even in tricky group situations.
Wow, yeah. It feels like a complete roadmap. Okay, let's wrap this up with a clear summary. For everyone listening who's been following along, these are the 4 pillars of connection. Think of this as the blueprint for becoming a truly effective, confident communicator.
Okay, pillar 1, know and own your story. This is your absolute bedrock. You need clarity on who you are, your work, your hobbies, your background, your values. If you're fuzzy on your own story, how can you share it?
Pillar 2, be a curious detective. This is about turning the spotlight outwards. It's the discipline of asking good, open-ended questions, the kind that invites stories, not just facts, and then really listening to understand their world, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Pillar 3, navigate with grace.
Yeah.
This is all about the social niceties, the lubricant that makes interaction smooth, knowing how to disagree politely, how to change the subject when needed, how to end a conversation well, leaving the other person feeling good about it.
And pillar 4, the big one from today's deep dive, be a bridge builder. This is that advanced skill, especially key in groups, focusing on inclusion, making sure everyone feels seen, using validation to connect points, and critically, using that exit statement and context bridge follow-up to move connections into the real world.
If you really work on practicing these 4 pillars, consistently trying to apply them, you will genuinely have the tools you need to connect with almost anyone, anywhere. That's the real power here, moving from just hoping conversations go well to intentionally building the skills to make them go well.
Couldn't have said it better. It's about being intentional, not just relying on luck or charisma. All right, so we always like to leave you with a final thought, something to chew on, maybe something to push you into action. Our challenge to you today is be brave. Try to start one conversation, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, or reach out to someone new you met recently and consciously try to use just one of these ideas, maybe validate someone's point or ask a great open-ended question or try that facilitator role for a minute.
And the final thought to mull over is this. Just remember that every single person you meet, no matter how they seem on the surface, rushed, quiet, intimidating, whatever, every single one of them has a whole complex story inside them, a story worth hearing. Your job, now that you have these tools, these pillars, is simply to create a little space, ask the right gentle question, and give them a chance to start sharing it. Go out there and make some real connections.